Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Second. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland! This is for you!
What's going on, Cavs fans? Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Block the Shot, the Stop. I'm Skylar Webker. He's Kevin Lynch. And Kevin, I think everything's pretty much bundled up for the year. The Cavs clinched their playoff spot and pretty much clinched their playoff seed. They could jump to the third, but we'll cover what it would take to get there. But how are you feeling about what we've seen in this iteration of the Cavs season, which feels like one of many?
Is that a good enough answer? If you just look at their record, they've been winning a lot lately, which is good, but the schedule fell in a way where they're playing a lot of these kind of dregs of the league here to finish out the season before tonight's game against the Hawks. And we were talking about before the show, it seems like the same game every time. Like the Cavs get down early, they look kind of lackluster and disjointed, and then they make a run in the second half, usually in the fourth quarter, to pull out the game, and they don't cover if you're a gambler. Not terrible. I do have a few concerns, particularly the perimeter defense and how healthy Jared Allen may or may not be after kind of seeing him wince a few times. It seems like he winces a couple times each game on that knee that he has bothering him. So, I still, even with 2 games left, and I think the Cavs will take this game, the second half of the Hawks game, seriously Friday, and then mail it in for that Sunday finale. I don't know that we're going to learn a lot about the team itself. We will still don't know what their matchup's going to be, as you said, but I kind of go into the playoffs, kind of a question mark with this team. Like, do they have potential to make a run through the Eastern Conference? Absolutely. Do they have potential to lose in 6 games in the first round? Absolutely.
Yeah, it does feel that way. It feels like a coin flip. I can tell you that the offense will be there. The Cavs will still score 120 to 140 points in whatever playoff game. The perimeter defense will be there. It's really going to come down to the interior defense will be there. Yep. It'll really come down to the perimeter defense and if the other team can make threes or not, which on any given night, I think any team could handily win that battle. So I'm with you. There's definitely some question marks around there, but going into, we'll rewind to the Memphis game, and then we'll kind of get into the Hawks game from tonight. I'm kind of encouraged in the sense of the bench had and did anything, and again in the Hawks game tonight, you kind of got even contributions for the bench because for quite a while there, it was a drag of like it's starters and then a heavy dip off of the bench players. And I know that they're still dealing with a little bit of injury around Jalen Tyson and Max Strus still not being kind of 100. Thomas Bryant going out now. So I get it that you probably haven't asking other guys to step up, but for a while there, we were pretty concerned about that bench.
For sure. So this Memphis game stood out to me, and we'll go through kind of some of the individual performances. They, because they played a couple of recent games shorthanded, so normal bench guys were actually starters and against Memphis. But we saw Craig Porter Jr. for the first time in what feels like forever in significant action, and he was great. 11, 8, and 6. Same thing with Naquan Tomlin. 10 points, 9 rebounds. I was super excited to see him get a little bit of run because he has definitely been a forgotten man these last couple of months after flashing a lot of potential. On the biggest thing that stood out for me from the Memphis game was the 3-point shooting, because Memphis, who was starting a G League team, if we're being honest, they had 10 guys on their roster declared out for that game, literally filling it with 10-day, filling their lineup with 10-day contracts and guys in the G League. And they shot 59 3-pointers, which, if I'm correct, is a season high for them. They hit basically half, 29 out of 59. And I believe that 29 ties an NBA record for most threes in a game. And what that told me is the book is now officially out on the Cavs. The way to beat the Cavs is you can get a lot of open threes and fire at will, and try and get those high percentage, whether it means your best shooters shooting them or getting a lot of those corner threes. Like if you look at the shot chart for Memphis, they had on the corner threes. So above the break, they were decent, and in the corners, they were very, very good. They're 50% from the corner three. So that is the book. I mean, they did shoot a lot more above the break threes and corner threes, I will say, and they just hit a ton. They hit a ton, but that's the best quality shot you're going to get against the Cavs when Mobley and Allen are both in the lineup, and the return of Dean Wade tonight, who's not the rim protector either of those are, but is probably your best overall defender. The book on him, the best shot you're going to get is a 3-pointer, ideally in the corners or on the wings, or, off of, get the Cavs defense rotating, because their perimeter defense, both picking up the man with the ball and more so just the communication and the rotation, is really bad right now. And so even the teams who aren't traditionally big 3-point shooting teams, such as Memphis, they come into the game with like, we're going to fire away from 3 as much as we can. And it almost worked. I mean, Memphis was up 12 at the end of the first quarter and was hanging around in a tight game into the fourth quarter before the Cavs pulled away.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just looking at the box score on this, I think look at Memphis shooting numbers, period. They had a higher shooting percentage from 3 than they did total field goal percentage.
Yep.
So that tells you the Cavs are really good at their interior defense, but the perimeter defense is absolutely abysmal right now.
Yeah, and if I get some downtime, I maybe before the playoffs start, I want to look like I'm most interested in how many more 3-point attempts these teams are taking against the Cavs versus their average, because it feels like, for a while people were saying, God, why does every team shoot so well against us? It's like, well, if it's happening every game, it's probably more a you problem than they're on their NBA Jam on fire every single night. So it seems like there's a lot of evidence that teams are focused in on getting the Cavs perimeter defense rotating, getting them spread out, attacking drives, and like searching out the 3-point shot, even if it's not the team's forte.
For sure. So I do want to highlight Dennis Schroeder, though, who has been riding the struggle bus, put back into the starting lineup, being shorthanded, coming out with 22 points and 11 assists. I mean, it felt like the kind of jolt into getting him back into the swing. You saw a little bit of that production carry over in the Hawks game tonight, where, like we said, he's just been on the struggle bus for the past month or so. So to see him get it going feels really good, because I know he was asked to start before and asked to start when hurt, and that's kind of when all of these struggles started happening. So I felt like it was a good confidence booster within Dennis Schroeder himself.
Yeah, it was definitely his best game probably since his first few games with the Cavs. I mean, that first couple of weeks, he was really good. And then ever since, frankly, he's been pretty bad. I have the numbers here. The last 20 games, which is the majority of his Cavs tenure, I think he's played like 25, 26 games with the Cavs. 7.5 points a game, 4.5 assists, only 42% field goal percentage, and then 3-point percentage is Lonzo Ball territory with 28%. So, and he's been, an overall negative in the plus minus in these last 20 games. Kenny, despite all of that, Kenny stuck with him in a regular rotation spot, first sub off the bench, really up until tonight, which I thought was one of the two most interesting things I saw in the Atlanta game was how he adjusted Schroeder in the rotation. But yeah, I mean, it's been bad for a while, particularly offensively. Schroeder still does, help you get organized on offense and provide pretty good on the ball pressure defense. But if your defense is going to be bad anyway, you probably can't start a guy who's a negative on the offensive end. And unfortunately, that's what Schroeder's been for a lot of his Cavs tenure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think having Dean Wade back along with Max Strus and everything like that allowed Kenny to kind of make a pivot in the rotation of minutes. For tonight's game, the Cavs coming off the bench were Max Strus, Sam Merrill, and Keon Ellis, who are usually kind of those heavy rotations, been asked to be the three in most of the season. So getting Dean Wade back, having him be able to slot in the three allowed Kenny to do probably a little more than we've seen at all this year, because we haven't had – this is the healthiest the Cavs have ever been. And that's very sad to say because there are 2 games left in the season.
Yeah. So if we're pivoting to the Hawks game now, that's the most interesting things from this game for me. And because frankly, we're focused on the playoffs, it was good to get the win against Atlanta, especially as you said at the top, this might be there's a good chance this could be our playoff opponent. I was most interested in the rotation, starting with the fact that he went back to Dean Wade as a starter and put Strus back coming off the bench. I think that's the right move. I think if Jalen Tyson was fully healthy, that I would maybe slightly prefer him over Dean Wade. But with the options, if Tyson isn't back or is compromised at all, I think the right move is to put Dean Wade in the starting lineup because of the defense he offers and the versatility he offers. The only problem with that is if you start him with Mobley and Allen, it kind of has it makes a cascade of like problems or issues with the rotation, especially on a night where Thomas Bryant is out. I don't know if Thomas Bryant will be in the playoff rotation at all. But if he isn't, you really want to keep 2 of Wade, Allen, and Mobley in the games at all times. And when you start all 3, it's harder to do that. So, but all in all things considered, I think putting Wade back in the lineup, putting Strus back off the bench, even though they played literally the exact same minutes, I think it was the right move. The second thing with the rotation was, as I alluded to, Schroeder basically got pushed down the pecking order tonight. And instead of coming in, usually came in for Mitchell halfway through the first quarter, he didn't play his first minutes till the start of the second quarter. He basically played the start of the second quarter, start of the fourth quarter tonight, and only 14, almost 15 minutes played, and he was really bad tonight. Like I'm not as big on plus minus as you are, but when you're a negative 22 and the next worst guy is a -2, that does tend to stand out. He just wasn't impactful defensively. He turned the ball over, like live ball turnovers that led to like runouts for the Hawks. And that's what the Hawks do well best, I should say, is run. And it made me think that Kenny is looking at reducing Dennis Schroeder's role for the playoffs to possibly he plays the first 6 minutes of the second and fourth quarters as Harden Mitchell is on the bench, and might even be considering reducing it even more than that.
Yeah, and look, I think this is the stereotypical team that we've talked about the Cavs' weakness: young, athletic wings that can get up and down the court. So if Dennis Schroeder, who has been a defensive liability, is a negative 22 with only taking 4 field goal attempts. That should tell you that he's getting picked on out there. And I think Kenny knew that. And like you said, adjust to the minutes, and I think you'll adjust them again as the Cavs have a rematch against the Hawks on Friday. But
Yep.
I was encouraged by this win because you kind of saw all the pieces of this core working together. Like you saw the James Harden getting his scoring ability and creating the pressure on a defense. You saw Donovan Mitchell being able in his bag of tricks to get it going. You saw Evan Mobley's impact. You saw Jared Allen's impact. So that's something that we haven't seen a lot of. So to come into this game that has playoff implications because this is likely our first round matchup is against the Hawks as things sit right now. To see this team come in and put on kind of a bit of a preview, not just kind of fold over. Hey, we already have our seat. Our seat's clinched. Let's just take it easy. To come in and have an actual intensity and effort and then see the pieces working together. I was pretty encouraged by that.
Yeah, but specifically, you were encouraged by the third quarter because that's when it all happened. So, like, it was not a whole game of that. The Cavs won this game by 6, and they won the third quarter by 24. So that was easily the difference in the game. Honestly, Harden was pretty bad tonight, 6 of 23 from the field, but in that third quarter, he was 3 of 6. I think all 3 were threes, if I remember correctly. But that's when you kind of saw it happen. Like that was the quarter that Jared Allen, it was like the one quarter he was consistently involved tonight. And Mitchell went off for like 13 points, 3 assists in that quarter alone. So, and that's the tough thing, the tantalizing thing about the Cavs is that they show you this, but they show it to you for about a 6-minute stretch, maybe a quarter stretch. And then they like take their foot off the gas, lose their focus, whatever happens, to the point that they could have ran away with this game. They were up 16 by the end of the third quarter, and the Hawks immediately go on like a +11 run to start the fourth quarter to make it a game down the stretch. And so you're right. Like if you watch, I mean, sure, the overall game, but particularly the third quarter, you're like, man, if they can just play like this, if they can find close to this with some consistency, they can beat anybody in the Eastern Conference at least. But it just seems to always be so fleeting.
Yeah, I mean, poetic words right there, because you're right. It definitely is few and far between when we see these flashes, but when we see them, the flashes are so bright, it's easy to get blinded by. And
for sure,
I get it, but you can see the pathway there. I mean, if you can get Evan Mobley, who was absolutely dominant tonight, 22 points, 19 rebounds with 3 blocks.
Yeah,
that'll do. If you can have Jared Allen not disappear when Evan Mobley's having a game like this, which happened tonight, getting 16 points on his own, 8 rebounds on his own. Like, okay, those two have got it figured out. You know Donovan Mitchell is going to be in his bag and get his. Now you saw James Harden not shying away from his shot. We saw that a lot when he first got here on, passing up and being more of the facilitator. Now it seems like we're seeing a little more balance between the 4 parts of this team, as well as even contributions scoring wise and everything like that from the bench unit.
Yeah, I mean, that was a note that I had here is if they could find better balance between those 4 guys, and an easy thing to look at is shot attempts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, Mobley and Allen combined for 24 shot attempts tonight. Harden had 23 himself, and Mitchell had 19. It's if you compare Mitchell and Harden versus Mobley and Allen, the guards are always going to have more shot attempts because it's just the way the NBA works.
Yep.
They're often the facilitators on the pick and roll. They are the ones who have the ball late in shot clocks. But if it could be more like a 60-40 balance instead of a 80-20, it would be, I think that's where the Cavs would excel. If they could get, Allen and Mobley combined 30 shot attempts a game, I think they would be so much better off. Because it is, if you look around the Eastern Conference, that is the Cavs' superpower versus other teams. No one else has two bigs that are as good as these two guys, both offensively and defensively. And that's on the frustrating side of the Cavs, is they never seem to fully lean into that, and they go get Harden, who is one of the most potent scorers in NBA history, but that means he's going to take a lot of shots and take some focus away from those guys. As much as he's helped Allen that first month when they were here, he's still going to end up taking 20 plus shots a lot of games. He wasn't doing it at first, but now you've been seeing it consistently almost every game he's played. He's right around that 20 shot mark or more. And so I think you're dead on with what it takes for this team to be successful. Offensively, find the closest balance you can to those two big guys, to those two guards. And I think it's somewhere in the 60% of the shots come from the back court, 40% come from those two guys in the front court. Obviously, they're not going to get 100% of the shots. Plenty of other guys are going to shoot the ball, but that is what I would look for. And I think around 30 shot attempts is the key. I bet if we looked in games where Mobley and Allen combined for 30 shot attempts or more, I bet the Cavs record was astronomical.
I'm sure it's gaudy.
Yeah. And Mobley and those two guys, they combined for 38 points tonight on 24 shot attempts. That's like insanely efficient. And if Mobley could ever tick up his free throws a little bit, it'd be even better. But yeah, I'm in a full agreement with you on this, is that hopefully they find even more balance towards those big guys, lean into that. I mean, it's what we've been talking about for years, but I think it's even more important now as the shape of the Eastern Conference has changed with these teams' rosters and so many people going small, that if you're going to go with the two bigs, you got to lean into it, right? And use it to your advantage. And I think that's where the Cavs, if they find playoff success, I think that's going to be one of, if not the biggest key.
Yeah, and we can look ahead into the playoffs. Like I said, the Hawks right now are your first round matchup. But beyond that, I mean, you're going to have a pretty, I don't know which road you would prefer. And maybe you can put some insight onto this. Right now, sure. The Cavs' pathway to the finals are through the Hawks, through the Pistons, and then likely through whoever comes out of Celtics Knicks.
Yeah.
The alternative is first round against the Raptors, Celtics, and then whoever would come out in the Pistons Knicks.
Yeah. So I have the same feeling on this every year. You're going to have to go through either the best teams or teams playing the best, no matter what your draw is. I don't believe in manipulating too much for your draw. If you're manipulating, so you play the Pistons instead of, in my opinion, most likely the Celtics in the second round, I don't know if that's a good thing. The Pistons have been far and away the best team in the Eastern Conference this year. They're a machine. They just lost. Cade Cunningham actually came back tonight, but I think in the 12 games he didn't play, they were 10-2. This team is, they're amazing. I don't know how much better off. I will say, I do think the Pistons, just from a roster standpoint, are a better matchup for the Cavs because they're not as prolific 3-point shooting team as Boston is. But I think there's a high probability, no matter if the Cavs are the 3 or the 4 seed, they would have to play both of those teams to get to the Eastern Conference. So what's it matter which one you play in the second round? Which ones it matter you play in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Fair. I mean, I agree with you, and you just got to beat the teams ahead of you, no matter who it is. I mean, You could be playing the Magic, the Hawks, the Raptors. You still got to get through them. I will say, though, where the Cavs sit now, I like having to play one of Boston or Knicks versus both, and then maybe have to get through the Pistons to get through.
Yeah, I mean,
that would be my only caveat.
If the Pistons and Knicks played, I have a lot of confidence the Pistons would win that series. I don't think the Knicks have been a mess for a while. And frankly, I didn't even think there was a chance that the Cavs could catch them for the 3rd seed, except they've kind of fallen apart the last few weeks. They're just the team of drama right now. Nobody seems to be getting along. There's all kinds of coverage about how unhappy each of the guys is and how much the guys are fighting on the court. Who knows how much they're fighting in the locker room and everything. So like, the Knicks are a distant third in honestly, I would say I'm more fearful of this Hawks team than I would be of the Cavs playing the Knicks right now. So to me, I think to play devil's advocate, you can say it's a harder road to have to play. If you got up to 3 seed and you played like a Raptors or something, at least you would have a very favorable first round matchup, in my opinion. I don't think this Hawks team would be a very favorable matchup. I don't know what they did in the last couple of games, but previous to that, they'd won 18 of their last 20 games. And so to kind of manipulate the system to avoid Boston for an extra round, but then you end up with the Hawks team, who's been one of the hottest teams in the NBA for 2 months or 6 weeks. And then you'd have to go through the Pistons, who are the runaway, best team in the Eastern Conference this year. Is that really an advantage? I don't think it is. I think I think the biggest thing the Cavs need to do is focus on themselves, get their roster healthy, and get some of these issues ironed out, particularly the perimeter defense. Because if they don't, it's not going to matter who the opponent is. Like if they're going to give up 60 3-point attempts and letting teams make half of them, they're not going to beat anybody.
Fair. They definitely have to focus on themselves. We saw last year where they were the runaway favorite and the well-deserved 1 seed and kind of got their teeth kicked in by the Pacers.
Who's to say this Hawks team isn't last year's Pacers? Pacers were in that 4. The Pacers were in the 4-5 game. The Pacers had a losing record after almost half the season, and then caught fire, the same as this Hawks team did around the trade deadline, and ran it all the way to Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Like, who's to say this Hawks team isn't the one you want to avoid the most? To me, if you have an opportunity to get the 3 seed, go ahead and get it and play. I think after the Hawks, starting with the 6 seed, there's a huge drop off in quality of opponents. So like, I would be all for, I think, again, I think they're going to have to go through Boston and Detroit both, very likely, or this Hawks team, maybe if they are that. So like, why not get yourself the most advantageous first round matchup and then, play the hand as it's dealt from there?
I mean, you could say that there is a path where the Cavs get the 3 seed, but because they beat the Hawks in this next game, the Hawks fall to the 6 seed, and then you got to go to the Hawks, then Celtics, then the Pistons.
Yeah, and honestly, it's so bunched up with every team having 2 or 3 games left to go. I don't even think it's worth the time to manipulate the system. I think you would be way better just trying to get these issues with your team figured out than spending so much time trying to manipulate. We got to win 1 out of 2, or we got to lose both so we get the opponent we want and all that kind of stuff. I think if this Cavs thing was humming and they were, the best offensive team in the league and, top 10 or 12 defensive team, I'd say, sure, play those games. But, there's enough things that they need to iron out that, like in life, usually the best you can do is look in the mirror and do the best you can, and then figure out everything else external after that.
Yeah, for sure. They have a lot that they have to figure out. I'm still uneasy or cautious to know what version of this Cavs team is going to show up in the playoffs. Obviously, when the trade was made, the whole thing was around James Harden's playoff record.
Yeah.
But honestly, the Cavs don't have the greatest playoff record on their own right.
Nope. No, they don't. And I just think, I go back to how we kind of led this off in this Cavs team. I think they're the biggest question mark in the playoffs, or at least in the Eastern Conference, because if they ran into the Sox team, I could very easily see them losing that series in 6 games. I could very easily squint if they got healthy and played, similar to how they did in the third quarter night. I could see them running through the Eastern Conference. And it's weird because if we're being honest with ourselves, these Cavs teams of the Don Mitchell era, the last 4 playoffs or so, I don't think any of us ever thought that they're a big question mark like this. I think all of us last year were so confident, like it's minimum Eastern Conference Finals, high likelihood NBA Finals. And the years before that, if we're being honest with ourselves, we didn't think we were real contenders. We just wanted to like win a round or something in the playoffs. But this year, I think all outcomes are on the table and just about as likely as the others.
Yeah, I would agree. It's an absolute coin flip on what you're going to get from the Cavs right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So for that, we'll close up out of here. On our Wednesday shows, we like to close with Dad's Talking Cavs. This is your free parenting advice. Your dad wins, your dad losses. Take it from us. Kevin, what do you got?
Winning is actually my topic for today. So my daughter inherited a family gene from both sides in being over competitive and not being able to take a loss. And I feel strongly with young kids, elementary school kids, you need to learn how to have fun playing the game before you worry too much about wins and losses. And so in our house, we've redefined winning as how much fun did you have? How much did you get to play with friends? Did you enjoy people's company? Were people nice to you? And we're in the middle of that and starting to see the seeds of that success and starting to break her a little bit of the ultra competitiveness. And I'm not even talking about sports. I'm talking about like playing tag on the playground, playing board games, playing, everything is like competitive, and there was a big line between winning and losing. And I'm a big believer in you can't really win until you learn how to play. And so I think young kids need to learn how to play. And honestly, they need to learn how to lose a little bit too. And so I don't even know if it's advice because we're in it right now. We're not, I can't say it's been a rousing success. I can't say it's a little bit better, but it's something at least I believe in. And what I'm trying is with young kids to redefine winning as something that's not on a scoreboard, but something of how doing something made you feel. And so hopefully we'll end up having success. I'm seeing the seeds of success now, but I will not declare success anytime soon with it. But if you feel similar to me, that's what we're trying. And if you want to try it, I hope you all the best with success with it with your kids.
My son's starting T-ball here this summer, so we're going to be on that train of winning and losing and learning how to lose as well. So I'll be reaching out for some advice.
What about you?
So my son is 3.5 going on 4. Around this time, you start seeing a lot more of the dreaded three-nager just outbursts and meltdowns and whatever like that. And kind of, I forget where I heard it from, but kind of one of either a family member or online or something. But I read or saw something that when a little boy is having those meltdowns or anything like that, give him a manual labor task, something like that. So whenever he's been a meltdown or anything like that, it's all right, let's go mow lawn. Let's go. Hey, move this chair to the other room, move the dog food. Like, doesn't matter what it is, but just like something else. And mixed reviews. I mean, I'm seeing the seeds kind of helping align that a little bit more, making that a little bit more manageable. Not 100% perfect record on it, but it is a cool piece of advice that it does seem to be trending in the right direction of, there's no need to throw a fit or yell and scream or do whatever, because you're going to get put to work if you do that, but also maybe a bit more of a regulation around emotions, big emotions.
Emotional regulation. toddlers and post-toddlers, young kids is one of the biggest challenges, because you want to let them feel things, right? But you also want to introduce a little bit of reality and what deserves your biggest emotions and what deserves your little ones. So
Yes.
so yeah, I honestly, I think at those ages, kind of the age your son's getting into, the age my older daughter is in, that's possibly the biggest challenge.
Can confirm it is one of the biggest challenges. So for that, we'll get on out of here. Please, if you're checking us out for the first time, we are the Block, the Shot, the Stop. We're bi-weekly, every Wednesday, every Sunday. We come in, recap the games, recap the Cavs, and foresee kind of what's coming up. Follow us on YouTube as we continue to grow the video content for this channel, as well as any of the audio platforms of this podcast. It really does help and means a lot. And please interact with us online. We're on all the social media platforms. We love fan interaction. So for that, I'm Skylar Webker. He's Kevin Lynch. We'll get out of here. And as always,
Go Cavs.